Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Deen at Dawn. We were talking today about Palestine and focusing on what's happening in Gaza. As I was telling you, the death toll reached 20,000 Palestinians lost their lives in Palestine as we're speaking in the last war in Gaza. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to make it easy for them and to help them and to enable us to raise awareness. And as I was telling you, the battle of awareness is going side by side with the battle on the ground there in Palestine. And every person, every free man, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, it doesn't matter from which religion or which country, which race you are, should support Palestine and raise awareness and stop this genocide, the killing of civilians. Most of the 20,000 who lost their lives are civilians. 8,000 children lost their lives there in Palestine as we're speaking now. Besides those who are in jail, and even there are children in jail as well. And this is ongoing for the past 75 years, since 1948. I'm from a family who originally derived from Palestine, and the entire village of where my family came from were completely destroyed. The entire family completely destroyed, and only the masjid is left. Currently it's a section of Tel Aviv. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help the people of Palestine to survive and to continue in their struggle for freedom and for their legal rights, and also us. May the Almighty help us to support them and to stand for their just cases. Don't belittle the battle of awareness and raising awareness. Lots of people now start to see the truth, especially after social media, and nowadays people started to get the other side of the story and to listen. Oh, it's not what we were taught at young time, etc. And so I'm having today with me, I'm honored to have today with me two honorable guests who were pro-Israel. They were pro-Israel. They were supporters of Israel. Of course, what they heard and what they read and what they get from information. Now they are pro-Palestine. So from being pro-Israel and supporters of Israel, they became pro-Palestine. And they are with me here in the studio. One of them, Sister Elma, she got a PhD in psychology. And she's a well-known figure, and also she's now supporter of Palestine and trying her best to raise awareness. And also her husband, who's also was a person in the Navy as well, Brother Abraham Ross. Both of them are here in the studio. Let's welcome them. Elma and Abraham, welcome.
Thank you very so much. Thank you, and greetings to your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm praying for you for all the best in your life and all the blessings in your life, for standing for the truth and standing for justice. Allow me to start with you, Elma, in the beginning, and as a person who got PhD in psychology, and you got so much of books with you. I can see you're reading a lot, family of readers. Tell me, what was the turning point in your life to change from being a pro-Israel and a supporter of Israel to a supporter of Palestine?
When I realized that many Palestinians are actually Christians and they are equally persecuted and damaged by the Israeli government, just like their Muslim brothers and sisters, because we had been fed it's Muslims against Jews.
Yes.
And then we realized that their churches are also bombed, they also lose their homes, they are subject to the same massacres. So that was to me very much a turning point, because we had been told the wrong information, and then we started searching for more information. And as we went along, we discovered that many Christians are in the diaspora, and as we've seen now that at least 2 churches just in the past few weeks had been bombed, and that was to me a turning point. And when I went to live in the Middle East for 9 years, over a period of 9 years at different universities, I also realized that what the media tells us about Muslims and with the real Muslims that you meet there are 2 different people. You wouldn't recognize them. That was the turning point for me.
Unfortunately, there's an intensive and extensive Zionist propaganda to make the conflict looks like, it's Muslims against Jews.
Yes.
And did you know that there are actually Jewish people? I'm not talking about the Jewish people out of Palestine who are supporters of Palestine as well,
yes,
but I'm talking about Jewish people inside Palestine Jewish people inside Palestine who
Yes.
are also being troubled by the Zionist state of Israel.
Yes.
So there are actually Orthodox Jews there in Jerusalem, for example, who are against the existence of the Israeli state. And right from the beginning, from 1948, they did not want to be included in the state of Israel. They want to be included. They want to, because they were living amongst the Arabs and amongst the Muslims and with the rest of the people living there for years as a minority, and we were respecting them and no problem with them. We had no problem with them, and they had no problems with us as well.
Yeah.
Only when the state of Israel were established, they didn't want to be included, but they included them. So nowadays they're troubling them, and they're actually beating them and imprisoning them, and they're trying also to mute them, not to speak. So it is not a religious conflict, or let's say that they're trying to make it like appear like this. Coming to you, Abraham, also, what was the turning point in your life, and when were you affected by your wife's reading?
Well, yeah, it's basically the same thing. She went to the Middle East before me, and whenever she came back, she told me, we are so far behind, and everything is so different in the Middle East, and things like that. And then I thought, I'm still in South Africa, and so you run with the flow of South Africa. You don't realize anything is happening. But then when I went to visit her for the first time in Saudi, I realized that what she has been telling me is actually the truth. And then when we started reading, and I read about the 2014 attack that the Israelis also had on Gaza, I thought, no, this is not Christian-like, and this is not what we should follow. And then I realized that we must stand with the oppressed instead of with the people that are killing them. Mm-hmm. So, it's always be with the oppressed ones, because they are being threatened by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
and when we turned about the Nakba, I've realized that the peace talks fail not because Palestine rejects it for nothing. It's because the Nakba doesn't get to be addressed. It's like having a patient with a broken neck, and then you try to let the limbs move, but it's the broken neck. The Nakba, and actually the ongoing Nakba, which includes the control over water sources, and of course Plan Dalet, that has been implemented since 1948, and actually slightly before that as well.
Yes.
And it's different levels of persecution. Of course, all these atrocities, these horror stories that we get, this is very much what people know. But if I could quickly look on my iPad, there are also things that Israel banned just to make the lives difficult of the people. We've been alerted to that by Dr. Mats Gilbert, who came here to talk about the medical side more. And they would ban things. At some points it would be banned, then it would be unbanned, but like pasta, sugar, potato chips, candy, cement, glass, steel, agricultural materials, crayons for children, A4 paper. It would go on and on. Batteries for hearing aids had been restricted at times, and wheelchairs and fishing rods. So at all levels, they try to make life a misery for the people. And we also read, he took out this book, the Balfour Declaration. I don't know how I can show it to your viewers. The Balfour Declaration, and how it affected the Middle East. And we also had the this book by Jonathan Schneer is not a stupid book. It has different papers like the Arthur Balfour papers, a House of Lords papers, pamphlets, published sources, journal articles, dictionaries, encyclopedias, and of course extensive books. And another thing that struck us is this book about Israeli apartheid. and how it differs in some ways from South African apartheid. But like here, I mean, the village, 3 villages in the West Bank were destroyed. The citizens were told to leave their homes and gather in an open area. At around 9 in the morning, they were instructed over loudspeakers to march towards Ramallah. There were some 8,000 of them in stifling heat of over 30 degrees centigrade. Some are old, some were pregnant mothers. They had to march, and Israel later built a recreational Canada Park over it. The destruction of homes, and they bulldozed homes, and they are still bulldozing homes. And some streets, the Palestinians are not allowed to walk on.
Yes.
I mean, this is insane. And the water restrictions for Palestinians, in the West Bank, they only get about 17% of what 17% of what an Israeli would get in terms of water. So they make life difficult for the Palestinians at all levels. But if you look at this book, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine by Ilan Papa, this book very much outlines how the Nakba is executed and how Plan Dalet was absolutely focused on getting rid of the Palestinians. They wanted them dead or away. So they were not allowed back when they fled the initial atrocities. They were not allowed back. But a Jew from Brooklyn in America could go to Israel and say, "Now I'm taking over your house." Yeah, you saw that clip. I'm taking over your house, but if I don't take it over, somebody else would. And there was another woman who extended her house a little bit. And then Israel said, "No, you don't need the extension," and now she has to share with an Israeli. A Jew from somewhere else, a Zionist Jew, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Look what's happening from these restrictions and this racism and apartheid taking place there in Palestine. One of the main reasons is to let the Palestinians leave. So it's practiced from day one, whether they kill them, whether they by force evacuate them, or they make it difficult for them and tough for them on a country level, or even as individuals. Some soldiers go and sleep in the houses of the Palestinians by force, to make it difficult for them so they can leave. So to that extent, and this is ongoing for the past 75 years. It's not something that just new. And so when they say, okay, but you see the Palestinians in Gaza, what they did, and in Hamas, what they did, but you're forgetting 75 years of oppression.
Yes, that's right.
And of course the Palestinians have to resist this. Of course, they are like how South African people, they resisted apartheid. Abraham, you attended apartheid and what's happening apartheid. What is the difference between apartheid in South Africa and apartheid in Israel, in Palestine?
Well, the difference between the two is clear, that we never wanted the blacks out of the country. We only wanted to separate between white and black. We actually, during apartheid, we built houses, we built schools, we built hospitals, and everything that they needed, we gave them. The only difference was that they could not swim in our swimming pools, and they could not eat in our restaurants. But in our shops and everywhere else, they would mix. And of course, then we had the toilets for whites and toilet for non-whites.
That
was a big difference. But there in
Palestine,
Israel, Palestine has got nothing, no rights, nothing. All the Zionists want is to get rid of them. They want them, like she said, out of the way. Because Netanyahu went to the UN once with a map of the new Middle East, where there was no area of Gaza on the map. It was just Israel all over. So and like the video that I saw last night, the person asked the guy that was holding the interview, but where must the people from Palestine go to be in a safe position? Then he said to them, no, they must go to a UN secure building. So then the guy said to him, you know, it's funny because they bomb even the UN people. So where must the Gaza people go? I mean, you know, it's like get rid of them, clear them off the land, and
They want them to go to the Sinai Peninsula.
yeah,
They
somewhere
them
there,
out
you know,
completely.
in the
you know.
middle of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
desert. They must go and
Yeah, you see,
Fly.
as I said, this is from day one.
Yeah.
And actually, in 1948, I'm sure the doctor maybe read about that, when there was a discussion about dividing and making a Palestinian state and a state for so-called Israelis and to make that state.
Mm-hmm.
The main aim. And there is a video of that, of the American president at that time, and he was talking to the prime minister of what's called Israel at that time, and I was telling him that, you know, this small land in West Bank, and we're going to leave it for the Palestinians. So he said, no, you don't leave this, we have to take it all. The whole land is ours.
That's correct.
So he said to him, I explained, he's telling the people, I explained to him that we can't do that because, you know, you have to take it dose by dose.
Yes,
And
yes,
the main
yes.
intention from the
Yes,
beginning,
yes,
the main intention from the beginning, I'm talking about Western government.
Yeah.
The main intention and they believe in the beginning that though Israel have to take the whole land.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but
correct.
you have to take it, you know, with some kind of smartness. You have to take one piece today, one piece, and this is what happened. One piece in 1967, one piece until you take the whole land. And so he said, you know, you have to take it, you know, with some kind of intelligence, dose by dose, step by step, until you take the whole land. So what I'm saying is that the Western government, they were not, from day one, they were not sincere in making a Palestinian state. They were not
Yes,
sincere
yes,
in making
yes,
that. So,
yes.
so all the talk that's taking place about the two-state solution, all this is actually, in reality, it is just to waste time until Israel is managing to take more lands of the Palestinians. I'm talking as a person who, you know, who read about the conflict right from 1917 up to today. If there was sincerity in making a Palestinian state, we would have seen that. But now to remain for over 100 years, claiming that we have to, the negotiation have to continue, negotiation for the sake of what? So mentioning the apartheid and what's happening in Palestine, that is worse than what's happening even in South Africa. Doctor, also, and subhanAllah, you mentioned the Balfour Declaration. Maybe you can tell the viewers about what you read about the Balfour Declaration.
Actually, I should start with the Sykes-Picot Agreement that was a few years before the time when Britain asked the Arab world to help them defeat the Ottoman Empire, then they would give them free reign over the Arab areas. And of course that promise fell through. That promise wasn't kept. And then Balfour wrote a 67-word letter to Rothschild to say that England would approve and help establish a Zionist state. The Zionism that they built this whole structure on was thought out by Theodor Herzl, who was an atheist. There were some other movements before that, but this was the main thing at the time. And then also this six-pointed star, the Star of David is never mentioned in the Bible or in the Torah. It's very much a generic thing that came back from pagan times, and now it's revered as the Star of David. Now the Balfour Declaration set into motion a lot of things to happen, because then the British militants started to get at the Palestinians, and actually by then they already started to disenfranchise them. And when we were monopolies about resources at the Dead Sea, the Palestinians were excluded from those monopolies for the potash and things that could be mined there. So it was the British and the Israelis and the Zionists against the Palestinians. And the Palestinians had been going through a few times that the landlord of Palestine would change, but their lives were not really affected. But with this, it started getting to be really affected. And even in 1947, there were people pushed out of their homes. But of course, with 1948, it escalated dramatically. And what many people don't realize, and I'm trying to raise awareness, is that they were literally kicked out of their houses and they fled to Gaza, but they still had the keys of their homes around their necks because they thought they would return. And when they wanted to return, either Zionist Jews were settled there, or Israel would say, oh, no, this is now a military zone, and for safety and security you can't return. And if you look on Google Earth, you will see that Gaza is very much overpopulated, and just next door, the Israel parts, they have the nice open spaces where they can grow things. So with the wall also in the West Bank, the farmers are restricted from going back and forth to their crops and to their olive trees, and sometimes the olive trees would be cut down. Olive trees that took a lot of effort to grow because you have to water it for 5 years. Sometimes they have to pull up the wagon with the water. And then Israel comes and they just chop down the trees. I have seen footage of Palestinians trying to sow some seeds, and then the settlers would just come and kick over the buckets of seeds and say, look, I'm sowing for you, I'm sowing for you. It is, as you say, they try to push out the natives from the land. And what I've heard is that DNA testing is prohibited because it would show that the Palestinians are the indigenous people there. And historically they are.
because they say, but you see, it's mentioned that that it is in the thousands of years ago they were living there, but actually they were living there as a minority, and before them the Palestinians were there, the Canaanites were there. So even before the Israel nation come from Egypt, when they were persecuted by the pharaohs there and they came to settle in Palestine, the Canaanites were living there. They didn't come to a land that was empty.
And they didn't come to a land that was that wasn't functional. They had trains, they had postage stamps, they had passports, they had libraries, they had beautiful paved roads. Palestine was highly developed, and they had fruit. Remember, Abraham? They had fruit going to the market every single day. And exporting fruit. They were a highly developed culture of the time, and to just break it was like breaking in.
Actually, Golda Meir, the Prime Minister of Israel at that time, 1948, she mentioned that she got a Palestinian passport. She herself got a Palestinian. So I'm wondering what you say about establishing a Palestinian state. The state was there already thousands of years. It was already in existence. What about establishing what? Palestine is there already as a country before this Zionist state existed. So historically it's not sound. Now theologically also, as a person who read in Bible, etc., and religions, even historically is not sound. Theologically is not sound. And I'm sure you read about the killing of innocent people. And I'm just wondering, how did you justify this as people who believe in the Torah? I'm talking about the Zionists here. How did they justify the killing of innocent people? It's not allowed. You shall not kill. Isn't this in one of the commandments, the 10 commandments?
It's one of the 10 commandments. And Jesus said, treat somebody else like you wanted to be treated. And it says, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty and you didn't give me something to drink. I was in jail and you didn't visit me. And they would say, but when did we see you there, O Lord? And he would say, when you haven't done it unto the least of these, you haven't done it unto me. Go go into whatever the damnation would be. So it is not scriptural.
It's not scriptures.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. And some people they try to raise fake ideas all around to justify the killing of the innocent people and the native inhabitants of Palestine. Now, as maybe this is the final question, or so if you have time. Now, as a PhD holder and a doctor and a professor, how do you specialize this case of Israel?
I looked up in the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, and if Israel were a person, it would be a person with ASPD, which is antisocial personality disorder psychopathy. It is against the social norms, and you see the different things, inability to distinguish right from wrong. I mean, surely in any state, arresting a 5-year-old is just wrong. And just indiscriminating bombing of people, that is just wrong. Lack of empathy, lack of remorse. I mean, here in South Africa, we have serious remorse about the state of apartheid. They have no remorse at all. Manipulating others, because there's actually a law that you're not allowed to bring in the Nakba. You're not allowed to talk about the Nakba. Then disregard for safety. When they started the Hannibal Directive in 1982, that every soldier has to sign, and virtually you could say every person, because everybody goes to the military, the Hannibal Directive, that they could shoot each other rather than being taken captive. Disregard for safety for their own. Arrogance, and of course then stirring up people from all over the world, like AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, that grants them impunity against all that they are doing. I'm ashamed to be a Westerner when I look at that. It is absolutely totally unacceptable. And then to go and bully Iraq and Libya, that makes them extremely dangerous. When they attacked Libya, they not only destroyed the irrigation system, they also destroyed the pipelines, the factory that made the pipes. And my concern is, when are they going to tell America, go attack South Africa? If they could tell America, go attack Iraq. I've seen footage of Netanyahu saying, if you attack Iraq, the Middle East will be safe. And I mean, of course it is not safe. So if they could maybe start attacking others. And what bothers me on a personal level is when I want to pray for my fellow Palestinian Christians. In many cases, okay, our Catholic Church has spoken out, but I have to turn to my Muslim friends to sit down and let's pray for the Palestinian Christians, because many Christians are still so brainwashed that they think what is going on there is some little text that they find somewhere, it is justified. And how can they, even if you don't care about the Muslims, okay, you never met a Muslim, okay, you couldn't be bothered, but surely you should care about the Christians there. How is it that they don't even feel this much for the Christians? The Christians in Palestine have to turn to their Muslim brothers and sisters for support. So that was me.
Enlightened. Any final remarks from your side, or a message that you can give as well?
Yeah, I can still remember when I was in Israel for 1976. We went to Jerusalem quite often, and just about every time we went to the Dome of the Rock, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and it was so beautiful to go inside there with that soft red carpet. You took off your shoes and everything, and you had, you could feel the sense that there is something holy happening here. And then you saw, you see the rock where the footprint of Muhammad was on. And, that is why I say it's not just Gaza that is suffering. It is also the West Bank, because last night I heard again that a soldier killed a father in front of his family, and then he took him out naked, you know, and he said, the rest of you got 24 hours, or else we will come and murder all of you in this village. You know, I mean, what type of
This is
person?
happening daily.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening daily, yeah. And I mean, okay, we're only talking about from 1917, but I mean, even before that, if you go further back, you will see that there's always been a conflict between the two, but always the Palestinians were the majority, and they actually accepted the Jews into their community. And some of the Jews then turned Muslim, some of them stayed Christians. But now, where do you draw the line? I mean, for them to drop 100 tons of bombs on a little village like Gaza, it's just like going out and murdering anybody that you can see.
True.
And I mean, even last weekend when they killed the mother and daughter at the Catholic Church after they went praying, and they wounded 48 people. I mean, what kind of people would do that? They've got no respect for any religion, nothing at all. That is why they actually bombed the Catholic Church that was in Gaza as well. You know, and they also bombed the third oldest church in the world.
Yes.
And they took that out. Now, I mean, if you don't have respect for that, what do you have respect for? Nothing, except yourself.
That's
all I can say.
that's very true. May the Almighty enlighten more people through your words and Elma's words.
Yeah.
Any final words from you, Elma?
You know, in South Africa, we realized we were totally wrong, and then we set a good example, I think, to draw up a good constitution and let all the people in exile come back, and one person, one vote. For Christmas, I want a ceasefire. That's the only thing I want for Christmas.
We call for ceasefire, and Elma and Abraham also call for ceasefire. Thank you very much for joining us and speaking the word of truth and not fearing anyone, speaking the word of truth in front of the tyrants of today. And may the Almighty guide you more and more, and may the Almighty continue to use you to spread awareness. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us.
Yes.
And I hope the word goes out that we should support Palestine.
I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
With that, we came to the end of this segment of our program and the end of our program for today. Jazakumullah khairan for watching. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.